Welcome back to another episode of LionHeart Radio. I'm your host, Rick Alexander, founder of Blue Aviv Supplement Company, based in San Diego, California. I'm here with my co-host, Claudia.
Hi guys, Claudia Challoner, Doctor of Physical Therapy with Muma RX and nationally ranked powerlifter.
All right, and today you're stuck with just us two.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about why the standard American diet, appropriately named the S.A.D diet, is killing you. But not all bad news. We're also going to talk about what you can do about it. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is maybe how the standard American diet came to be, or we can at least talk about why we have it right now. And I think principally that's because of really good lobbyists.
Oh, yeah.
So it always comes back to money, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, well, first of all, does anybody still use the food pyramid? I don't know if that's still a thing or not.
I don't know if they teach it in schools or because I remember learning about it in school. So I don't know if they still kind of follow along with that or not.
Well, so everybody has individual differences, which is, I think, makes the one size fit all diet really hard. Because people, what happens is they want to get healthy. They look for the best way to do that. And there's 100 marketers out there with a new fad diet. And I think what happens is people get overwhelmed because there's so many so-called clean eating diets, or there's so many different things that you can do, and there's so many people that are ready to take your money that people get frustrated. And if you go based on the government's recommendation, or even conventional science, I would say, conventional wisdom at least, you're going to end up in a bad place, right? Like right now, I think this is a first generation of people whose kids aren't supposed to outlive their parents as far as life expectancy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is absolutely unsatisfactory. I don't know. So, but no matter what your individual needs are, I think that making grains the biggest part of your diet is a problem, right? Because if you look, and this is something that paleo, in my opinion, really gets right, is that, the big argument is that our body was meant to process the foods that are on this earth. And so if you take anything post-agricultural revolution, you're really talking about food that was genetically made or man-made at least, and you're introducing that into your body, and your body can... I mean, there's a guy that has eaten a whole car. I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you seen this guy?
What?
Yeah, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. He's literally eaten an entire car.
Are you serious?
I'm not
died?
No, I'm not fucking with you. Whole car.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm looking that up.
Yeah, no, look it up. Google it. Guy that ate a car.
Okay.
But so the whole point, though, that I'm saying is, your body can process anything, over time and gradually, it can happen. So just because you can eat grains for a major part of your day doesn't mean that you should, right?
Yeah.
And the concept that I've talked about a lot is people are always looking for the quick fix for something. So let's just pretend diet's a pill right now. So if there was a pill that would make you feel better, look better, perform better, sleep better, people would be literally mortgaging their house for this. They would be doing anything, right? Viagra would be in second place for sure.
Oh, yeah. And definitely.
And the thing is, people don't understand that is diet. 100%. It's not an easy fix, I think, is the reason that it doesn't get enough press. But that's diet. So a month ago, or I guess it was longer, it was 2 months ago almost now, or a month and a half ago, I cut sugar completely out of my life. Completely changed my life. I mean, I sleep better. I perform better. I was in a position where I was starting to run ultra marathons, right? So I had run one, but I was starting to train for them a lot, and I was losing no weight at all. So what happened is, I couldn't explain it. So I was trying all these different crazy diets. I was going intermittent fasting, but then when I would eat, I would just eat my normal diet, which has a ton of sugar in it, even though I didn't think I was eating a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of the food industry, I started eating. I was eating a lot of sugar, and I couldn't keep the weight off. And the reason is your body literally cannot process the amount of sugar that it's taking in a daily basis if you don't eat a diet based solely in whole real food, right?
Yeah.
And then you're a vegetarian. We've talked about this a little bit, or pescatarian.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit, and the main difference being fish.
Yeah.
Okay, so you consume fish, and what about poultry?
No. I eat eggs.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I think a lot of vegetarians do eat eggs, so keep it in their diet. So, not necessarily all of them, but
from a moral standpoint, eggs, they were never going to be a chicken, right? Is that the case?
Of course not. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily do it from a moral standpoint of the animal. It was more. It actually started off for more like the food industry and the farming industry and how corrupt it is.
Really.
And then, so I'm totally fine with people like eating
whatever.
Animal. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm all about eating okay, this was John's cow, whatever. Eating that is more what I promote. So
I can't remember the name of the law, but there's a law out there that makes it literally illegal to document a slaughterhouse and post it online. So there was,
I think there was some uproar with that, with some documentary I think that was made.
Someone had drone footage of like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I do remember seeing something like that.
That's fucking crazy. Like you literally can't show your process.
This is what we eat. This is what you're putting into your body. Like millions of people
daily.
are putting it into their body daily. Yeah, it's insane.
As a supplement company, so when we were looking to outsource manufacturing, the number one rule I had is that I needed to be able to show up and walk in and look at your manufacturing plant at any point. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, I am selling this to people. I'm telling them to put it in their body. Mm-hmm. The number one thing that you should be able to do is vet the process, right?
Yeah.
And so the food that people are buying every single day it's illegal to vet this process.
Yeah. Makes sense, right?
And I think that's what people don't understand is that, if you are just eating, and even I talk to my family. My family's like, a few of them are like diabetic, type 2 diabetic, and it's like they are so frustrated because they feel like they're eating how their nutritionist is telling them to eat. They're eating low-fat food, right? If you think low-fat, think high sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, which is going to convert to high fat always. But it's like, it's frustrating and it's like hard to get through to them. But people don't understand that if you're eating the standard American diet, the deck is stacked against you completely. Because the people that are, this is a term I always use, the people that are helping kind of form the way that you eat or dictate what you should eat, they're intellectually lazy, and B, they don't care about, Johnny and Sally's health. They just don't. It's about money. Always. It always comes back to money.
Yeah.
And then, mainly there's so much sugar and everything. When I cut out sugar was the most frustrating thing ever. Not just because I had to deal with the cravings, but because I felt like I couldn't eat anything that was sold in a grocery store.
Pretty much.
So if you're, with your diet, do you find that to be a problem? Like trying to actually find food that you can't eat?
Yeah, it's tough because, I think we had mentioned this when we talked before, but when I switched over to becoming a pescatarian, I did it the wrong way. And I see plenty of people that don't eat meat that do it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And I just switched over to a total carb diet, and I was eating a lot of pastas and this and that, and I actually gained weight. It was horrible, and my body was not responding well. And then I realized what I was doing was really bad, and switched over to eating more clean fruits, vegetables, those kind of things, and then getting good wholesome fish in my diet, and that was way better. But a lot of people do it wrong, and then go to all of the processed stuff.
Right.
The people that are eating, vegetarians that are eating processed, I don't even know what it is, processed food that's sausages or tofurkey or whatever they call it.
It's plastic.
Yeah, basically. So I'm not really sure how. I mean, you got to kind of think about what choice you're making at that point.
Yeah. Joe Rogan, he always goes into the moral aspect of being a vegetarian, but even beyond that, you have to look at the effect on your health. It's just because you're, even if you are getting protein, it's is it a complete protein?
Yeah.
Literally, how much sugar is in this protein? Because that's a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot, and you're probably low on omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem with this is if you're low on those fats and you're getting sugar in a lot of your different meals, your brain is going to have this roller coaster-like effect because glucose is the only thing that can cross the blood-brain barrier, other than short and medium chain triglycerides, which are the fatty acids, the MCTs. So the only thing that can cross the blood-brain barrier is glucose. So when you're getting this excess amount of glucose, right, and then it's a quick-burning energy, it's a quick-burning carb, so then it falls back down, and then you get it again. It's you get these, it looks like a heart rate monitor or whatever, cardiac rhythm in your brain. and you're constantly getting this like peak and this crash.
Oh, you see it all the time with people getting like the afternoon snooze or whatever, like
after lunch.
Yeah, exactly. They are eating this super high sugary meal at lunch and then crashing afterwards.
Yeah. And some of it's like, okay, well, even if it's not sugar, like, you know, if it's rice or some kind of starch that's wound really tight, your body's going to treat it like a sugar. It's going to be molecularly no different once it gets into your body. And then, you see this crash. And the difference with fruit, so I'm on a ketogenic diet, so I don't eat fruit at all because I'm actually trying to use fat as a fuel source, which we can kind of talk about in a little bit. But so I don't eat fruit at all. But at least if you're eating fruit, you know, because people say, okay, well, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, organic sugar, you know, your liver, your body is going to treat all of those things the exact same way.
Yeah.
The difference is that something like fruit or vegetables, they come innate with fiber, which is going to help your body process and get rid of that sugar. When you're looking at man-made sugar or like cultivated sugar on its own, or in a product like, we'll just use like a chocolate bar or whatever, that doesn't have a lot of fiber is, you know, you get that sugar and then your body is going to release insulin, which is what helps break down the sugar. Your body has no need for this sugar. You didn't take fiber, so it's not going to go anywhere. So the insulin's going to convert it to fat. And like, I think that's what was going on with me, why I like literally I could not lose weight to save my life, even though, and you can't outwork this process. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more sugar in things than you think. You literally can't. I used to, when I used to run triathlons, I would eat Snickers or whatever. I mean, I was young, and I had a saying like, well, if the furnace is hot enough, it'll burn anything. And it's like, man, at 28, it will not burn 30. It will not burn anything.
Yeah. And I think also, too, like looking at the calorie, I think a lot of people get stuck into only worrying about the calories. You see that in a lot of, you know, fad diets and stuff. Only worried about the calorie count. So they're eating, you know, only 1,000 calories, which I don't agree with anyway, but it's like crap, like 1,000 calories of just crap. And so your body's starving for wholesome food and nutrition, because if you give it 1,000 calories of like, you know, donuts, then that's not going to be the same as 1,000 calories of, you know, fish and vegetables and things like that. So you're still going to be probably just as hungry after eating those 1,000 calories in donuts, because you're not giving your body really anything to play with except simple sugars.
Right. Yeah. Because the sugar, I mean, a calorie is not a calorie.
Yeah.
And that's what people, so I think that people for a long time really got on this whole energy in, energy out argument. It's like, you know, what you eat needs to be less. And it seems like it makes sense from like a common sense perspective. But then when you realize that your body's not treating all of these calories equally, that's where the argument like breaks down and starts to fall apart. And I think that we have, you know, this insane obesity problem, which, first of all, I mean, I've been to like 57 countries around the world. So the first thing I used to resent the fact when people are like, oh, Americans are fat. I used to hate it because I would like go to these other countries and I'd be like, okay, well, maybe we have more fat people, or obese people or whatever you want to call it, but we also have way more fit people. Like we have way more gyms. We have way more in shape people. You know, we beat the hell out of the world in the Olympics. Like, I mean, literally that would be like my thought. But at the same time, we have such a bigger population that you kind of have to take that. And then most countries, you have to take that into account or whatever. But I think we have this huge obesity problem because people are trying to think like you can outwork a bad diet. And that is a literal impossibility. And I think a part of that is a lot of these Instagram models or whatever, they have really good genetics right out of the gate. And they have a body that's not going to, you know, store fat like the normal person or whatever. And then they put a little bit of work into it and they get, you know, really toned. And then they, you know, like proliferate this, like, you know, donuts are life message. And it's fucking retarded because it really does like an injustice to, you know, all the people that are out there that are like
really trying to search out information.
Looking for the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Getting a lot of mixed messages. And I think, too, you see a lot of, like, one extreme or the other. So it's funny that you mentioned about this society because we have all these gyms and everything like that, but I think people are still looking for that quick fix, I just want to look good for this. I just want to look good for my wedding. I just want to look good for, graduation or whatever. This photo shoot. Vegas, yeah. And then I don't care after that. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of these one extreme or the other. It's like we're either, like, super fit and then on a diet and doing this and that, or, like, the opposite.
Yeah.
So we've got to find this balance of,
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
It's like Halloween, right? It's like the time of crash diets and sugar highs.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing. Like, if you were to step back and just look at culture, you're like, so they're starving themselves so they can wear scantily clad clothes to eat candy and drink booze. It is the craziest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
And then something we talked about is a documentary, Fed Up. It did a good job of, like, highlighting how big of a problem sugar is. Mm-hmm. And why, like, all these people are having trouble. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, the documentary Fed Up. It essentially talks about how the food industry, how corrupt it is, and why they use sugar. And the big things that they highlight are, well, sugar, one, has addictive properties. They compare it to the addiction of cocaine. I don't know if that's true or not, but no comment. And then the second thing that they talk about is the fact that the government is so involved in this, and they subsidize corn. Like, corn is highly subsidized in the U.S., and they make it, and there's almost no use for corn, so they make it into high fructose corn syrup, which, again, sugar, exact same thing when your body processes it. And so they put it in all these foods. It's a win-win, right? Like, the government's paying to subsidize it, and then, the industry uses it because they know that you're going to have to come back for more because you have these, like, addictive qualities.
Yeah.
And when you cut sugar out of your life, it is 100% obvious. So the first 6 days for me, they say anywhere from the first, like, 5 days to 2 weeks or whatever. For me, it was 6 days. So if you cut sugar out of your life, one thing that you have to be careful of is you have to replace it. So like I said, sugar, glucose is the only thing that can cross the blood-brain barrier other than small and medium chain triglycerides, like MCTs. So you have to replace it with something else that can. So you have to have something that can take its place, which is why I think the ketogenic diet works so well. And you can buy MCT oil or something like that. But for me, it was like the first 6 days, it was like horrible. It's like the first day was good. And then once I had, like, moved all of the sugar out of my body, because I'd done a bunch of workouts on that first day. And so, there's still a lot of glucose stored in your liver and different parts of the body. So once the stores were completely gone, it was like Tuesday, I hit a wall. No energy. I felt like I couldn't really think, and I was like, I can't do this. This isn't sustainable. And you're eating so much fat, which you're conditioned to think is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Your whole life. At least I was. And then on the 6th day, on that Saturday, it was like light switch turned back on, except this time my energy was so much more sustained. I didn't have cravings. I was eating way less, and it was like literally instant. Mm-hmm. So the first, like, 5 days, I, like, felt like I didn't really lose weight, and then it was like someone just turned on a furnace in my body, and I felt great.
Yeah.
And I slept better because, like, you're not getting that brain peak. Mm-hmm. Because the thing about MCTs, the thing about fat is it's a much longer burning, sustained fuel source, so you're not getting those peaks and valleys.
So you would suggest that for someone that's doing more of an endurance?
Well, the thing is, so here's what I like about it, and I try not to let what I'm doing, like, kind of dictate what I tell everyone else that they should do. I try to, like, use good sound judgment. The one thing that I'll say is my results have been so good on this diet that I feel like it's, like, hard for me to not tell everyone else, especially my diabetic family. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's just like my aunt today, she was like, oh, I try to eat from the rainbow and, like, this and that, and I'm like, so fruit, I'm just thinking about all the sugar she's putting in her body, and I'm just like,
fruit and fruit.
I'm just like, stop, just fucking do this diet, I'm telling you. But I do recommend it for endurance, but it depends on the length of your activity. There's, like, metabolic flexibility is the ability to go back and forth between the two. Mm-hmm. And you really have to look into that. I think some people think of metabolic flexibility and they think it's something that can be switched on and off really fast, and that's truly not the case. Like, it takes a while to get, at least I've found, to actually get the sugar out of your body, to stop being a sugar burner, and to get your body to switch over. Mm-hmm. But now, even, like, when I go do an endurance event that's prolonged, I use carbs, but I use them where I need them, and then I stop using them. So that would be, like, the big difference is I feel like it's made my body extremely efficient.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
But getting back to that Fed Up documentary, they do a really good job of highlighting the problem and like where the problem stems from. But then their answer is that we need to lobby the government harder. And I almost never think that that's a good idea. Only, we talked about this, but like the government obviously plays a big role in food because of the FDA and what they allow.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the same time, like, if you think relying on the government is the answer, maybe you've never worked in the government or seen them work, right? Like, go to the post office and stand in line and then tell me that is the same entity that you want to control your health.
Yeah.
It's like you can't be a victim all of your life.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
So I think you really have to, like, educate yourself. And, as with most things, there's no substitute for education.
Yeah.
And even doing what you did, I think, realizing like you had a problem with the way that your food was cultivated or whatever, like making it forces like this educational process, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm sure that so much more about how your body processes food and uses it now that you've had to like monitor what goes in and out.
Play around with it. I mean, it's an experiment. Like that's,
right.
You kind of have to test, retest with dieting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you were talking about earlier. Everyone's going to be individual.
Yeah.
As far as everyone has their own, allergies or tolerances and stuff. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. So that's important. Everyone's not going to be the same on one particular diet. You can't, everyone's going to be great on this one. So you have to figure out what's going to be best for your body and your sport or your activity, whatever you do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's something like people get real fed up with the whole like gluten intolerance, gluten-free thing, which I totally get, but at the same time it did bring to light the fact that like people do have different intolerances. Gluten's just one of them, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, so I've noticed since I cut sugar out of my life, like I used to always go for the gluten-free option because I do feel like I have a bit of a reaction to gluten.
How's that going for you?
Now like nothing, because anything that's gluten-free is like
always has some kind of sugar.
Astronomical sugar. Yeah. It's crazy.
That's the same thing like with, other things like the low fat. Anytime you have low fat, you're going to have high sugar likely in that product.
Always.
So the same thing with the gluten-free stuff. Oh, I'm gluten-free. But then they are buying all of this packaged stuff, which has tons of sugar and other processed stuff in it. So it's, again, you got to think about your choices at that point. So
even when I went sugar-free, I was like dying to feel like I could eat like regular food. And I went to the grocery store. I flipped every fucking thing in the store around. I swear to God. I read every single nutrition facts in Ralph's, every single one. And I was like, I had an idea. I was just like, oh my God, Atkins. They are a carb-free diet. I'm going to go get Atkins like TV dinners at this point. I don't even care. I just want to eat regular food that's compatible with this damn diet. And I went and like flipped it around and it was like, oh, only like 37 grams of net carbs. And I'm just like, no, I can't do 37 grams. Like, what the hell? Especially at first, like you have to, if you're going to do the ketogenic diet, you have to go really low in order to get your body to switch. And then you can go back up to 30 to 50 or whatever your tolerance is.
Yeah.
But at first, it was like it's supposed to be under 10 for the first like 10 or 11 days. And so I was like, dude, I can't even eat a low-carb meal on this low-carb diet. Like, that is how screwed this industry is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just hard to find something that's good. But I think you have a good point is that, like, you can't everything is different. I would say if you have to recommend something, I think whole real food is always... Yeah,
you can't go wrong. And I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too, for people, if they're looking for a start. I think that might be a better way to go than maybe something as drastic as what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, because I feel like if people go too drastic, then they can't stick with the plan. I mean, it's like January 1st. Everyone's on these new diets, these new fitness plans.
Yep.
And then end of February, if they last that long, they're starting to really fall off the cliff. Yeah. So, and then going right back into, not working out at all or going crazy on the donuts. So.
Yeah, and I read a study, and I don't know the validity of it, but it was like January 14th, like 70% of fads have ended, or something like that. Or maybe it was like...
Yeah, it was. That's like probably... 2 weeks in. Yeah.
I bet that's true.
Yeah.
By February, the gym's back to, like, being open.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I got started. So I read The Paleo Solution by Rob Wolf. Great book. Even if you don't go paleo, it explains like how food works in your body. It's a really informative book. And it talks about like disease process and how food interacts with different diseases. But that's what got me started is I read this book, and he made an argument in this book because I was like, dude, do I really want to commit to this? And in the book, he says, well, do this for 30 days. And then at the end of 30 days, eat whatever meal you want. Like, literally eat anything you want. And then, if you didn't feel better for that 30 days, like life-changing better, and then you feel fine after that meal you eat, then go ahead and, if you didn't like it, then just go back to the same shit you've eaten your whole life, basically. And so I was like, well, I can do 30 days. I mean, I might as well give it a try. Not realizing, though, that if you cut gluten out of your life for 30 days and then you eat gluten, no matter what, like, you are going to feel like it is awful. But that's what I did. I went 30 days, and then on the end of 30 days, I'm buying Oreos and I'm buying milk. And I bought Oreos and milk, and I ate probably 2 sleeves, right? And no, it's probably 1 sleeve. And then I just laid down on my side, and then that was that. I was like, this is what I'm doing now. It was an awful night. But anyway, so I went to it for like a year, like hard paleo. And then I did feel like it worked, but I still think there were certain intolerances in there. And for performance, it was like I said, if you go to a clean diet, you're going to be better off always. Yeah. And that's the number one, I think the 2 big things that you can do, especially if you find yourself to be a victim of the standard American diet. The 2 important things you can do are eat whole real food and begin to educate yourself, because there's definitely no outside entity that's going to do it for you.
Yeah. You got to look out for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, cool. So that is why the standard American diet is killing you. Sugar, it's all run by money. Everything always comes back to money. All right. And people wait for somebody else to make the decisions for them. So educate yourself, eat whole real food, figure out what your body can tolerate and what it can't. And those tests are cheap. You don't have to go to the doctors. There's companies, DNA Fit, I think it's DNAfit.com. They'll send you a swab, and then you send it back, and then they send you a whole profile based on what you should and shouldn't eat. Yeah. And if you cut out all the foods even that they tell you shouldn't eat, you'll feel 100 times better. Yeah. Just by getting rid of those like small intolerances that, over time your body's kind of beat down, honestly. Mm-hmm. So that's something worth looking into, for sure. Yeah. All right, cool.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
The rip.
Thanks for listening to LionHeart Radio. Don't forget to rate us and download our other episodes. For your supplement needs, go to louaviv.com, and for your sports therapy needs, visit movement-rx.com.
This Midwest nigga be the coldest. Cleveland is the city where it's hustle or you hopeless. And my closet like a stove, bitch. Only difference is you ain't gon' find this in no stove, bitch. I'm fresher than your whole clique.